Good evening, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing great on this evening. Just before getting rid of all the work things today, I figured I'd do one before I hit the sack, and time to get up tomorrow morning again for another great day. Hope you guys are doing well. The power is amazing and overwhelming. And so it's getting stronger all the time. I think I'm at 1,035 days or something like that. I lost track. But we're up there over 1,000, close to 1,050, I think, at this point. So we're moving ahead. I want to thank you guys for all the comments. I didn't get a chance to look at them. I'll try to do it tomorrow. I do have one, obviously, of the content area we're going to talk about. I also kind of want to mention, guys, that, at this point, I just like giving the information. I obviously am not high tech at all. Hopefully one day I will be. Maybe what I'll do is eventually kind of go monetize. I'm not close to even doing that at this point because I don't really care about that. What I care about is getting the information to you. So I know you guys are looking to, kind of want me to kind of upgrade a little bit. And I probably should. I probably should get a computer, but I just haven't had a chance to do a lot of that stuff yet. One of these days I will do it. I'm just trying to kind of get information, answer some questions, and kind of get you guys to think about things maybe in a different way, and kind of maybe get some of my experiences to you guys and kind of make a decision about where you want to go. All right, so content, we're starting at 1 minute and 40 seconds here. I'll see if I can try to remember the exact time when I put on the description. But we're coming from a viewer, MyStkal Moon, I think it's called. If I got it wrong, I apologize. Or it might be Moon. MyStkal Moon. And MyStkal Moon. I think that's what it is. All right, so I apologize for that, my friend. But great topic. Great topic we're going to talk about. And I'm going to talk about this one in terms of the illusion of life that comes from Adam and Eve. And we're going to talk about that, how it affects semen retention and all the natural senses and things like that. So thanks again, MyStkal Moon. I appreciate that. And let's talk about it. So, all right. So we talk about this. Let's kind of examine this. I'm going to give you my perspective. It's going to be a little bit different perspective when it comes to this. And once again, a great topic that we're talking about here. So the story of Adam and Eve. We're talking about the story of temptation. And Adam, obviously, in the story, Eve gets the apple from the evil one. They're living in paradise, should be happy, should be had no problems at all, and everything should be great. So what happens is that here comes the evil one who attempts and tempts Eve with the apple. Now, a lot of this could be symbolic, depends on how you read into this passage, but the apple is temptation. And obviously then Eve takes a part of the apple and then also gives it to Adam. And so Adam eats it, and all of a sudden they become aware of the surroundings, they're naked, and now they're cast out because now they have committed sin. Okay? So the illusion that we have here is the idea that people do not like paradise. Now, I say that in a crazy way, warriors, but what we mean by that is that people have some unknown reason that I cannot put my finger on. They want to tempt. They want to be tempted. And there's lots of people out there, they're not happy living day by day within the Lord. And so I'm going to give you kind of a perspective here that you may not have heard before, but it's one that I've thought about for a long time. And that's the fact that what makes a warrior actually want to follow through on temptation? What makes a warrior want to go away from the paradise they have and all of a sudden decide, I'm going to sin? And they know they're going to sin. They have it in their minds, and it just kind of festers and keep going. We're talking about retention, obviously, releasing, but I could talk about any kind of sin. And the idea is that we need to kind of look at why people do this. Well, as I was thinking about this over the years in my own situation, I came up with one answer, and that's the fact that you don't trust the Lord. That's what I felt myself. That's almost like saying, okay, Lord, I'm doing this my way, and I'm not going to follow you. I see this temptation. I see this apple. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Now, you may still save me because I'm a person that, loves you and be saved by you, but I've still committed sin, and I need to be forgiven by God. But the reason why we get tempted is because there's something in human nature, and I think the evil one understands this, that we somehow are not happy with paradise. We're not happy with the status quo. We're not happy with just things being normal or happy, peaceful, tranquil. Now, some of us, and I've gotten to that point myself, who appreciate it. I don't need the high adrenaline things anymore like I used to in athletics or bungee jumping, all kinds of stuff like that. I don't need that anymore. But that's taken a long time for me as a warrior to realize I don't get my kicks doing that kind of stuff. That does not stir my emotions, my adrenaline. Because what I was really doing is saying, God, you might have the paradise, but I don't want the paradise. I want something more than this. I'm going to challenge you, Lord, and say, I'm going to go ahead and do this. No matter, and are you going to save me, or what's going to happen, Lord? And some people, they don't turn out too well, right? We had lots of guys like Evel Knievel back in the old days, riding motorcycles over big trucks and everything, trying to get across canyons and things like this. He got injured so many times, it was incredible. All right? But we take those chances because down deep, we're testing the Lord. Now, I don't think people recognize that. Most of us don't recognize that. It's a thought that came to me as I was thinking about my life and all these things that have happened. It's almost like we're testing the Lord to see how far we can push the Lord to get to the point where now we're saved, or now he's going to save us, right? And the whole idea is we should be happy every day in paradise. And paradise is what we're seeing now in retention, in my mind. I have never felt so strong. I have felt no powerful. It's almost like it's bursting. And I have to do things to control myself during the day because you get, flirted with all the time. And I have to just keep remembering that I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. But I tell you, the power you have draws people to you like crazy. Good and bad. Sometimes people can't handle that energy. So they get upset, they get intimidated, they get mad, right? They sometimes want to challenge you. But those type of things are high-level energy that you're feeling because God is inside of you with all that energy. You're keeping it. You're not releasing it like a lot of people do. It is a sad state of affairs. Somebody said that in one of the texts today. It's a sad state of affairs when we're talking about the fact that an abnormal way to be is not to have sex with your wife until you're married, being a virgin. That's an abnormal thing in our society. Just think about that, warriors. Think about how crazy that is, right? Think about how crazy that is. So when we talk about this illusion, the illusion we're talking about here is that temptation. The fact that we can find a better life than paradise. Now, the funny thing about this is that we always go back to God when we make mistakes, because it strengthens in the back of our mind that relationship with the Lord after we've sinned. Once again, I don't understand this, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I do understand. I've had people, when I've helped people with counseling and marriage issues over the years, I had one couple, I asked them, you guys fight an awful lot. Why are you fighting? And their answer back to me is because they enjoyed making up. It made the making up funner. Now just think about that for a second, warriors. They did not violent, but they did angry things at each other so they could make up. Now, I don't know if they recognized it. Subconsciously, they thought about it afterwards. But the idea is the same principle. We're tempting the Lord. It's almost like we're his children, and all of a sudden, we're not happy being his children. We're going to go run off and do our own thing. You're not going to stop me, Lord. You're not going to stop me from doing this. I'm going to go ahead and have sex with her or him or whatever it might be, right? I want to do the most deviant things I can do because I can do them. You're not going to stop me. There's no consequences. And whether people believe in God or not, they have to believe in a God, because even if they don't believe with the God, they know God is there, or else they wouldn't believe. They wouldn't have. It's almost like a not type of thing here, right? Even the atheists and people are sitting there, they recognize God. They just don't believe in God. But they recognize there's a God there, so they recognize that they're doing something against God by not believing in God, at least in their own minds. So the thing is, they're once again, these children, and I've had children, you know, some of you in the viewing audience, you have children. You know what children do. At some point, they want to break away. But then, when they need help, they commit sin, they come back. And so you talk about this illusion that we're talking about when it comes to ideas and things. We create an illusion in the world. I mean, look at, and I think once again, I go back to my friend here, MyStkal Moon here. I'll tell you, he talks about covering of natural senses. He's so right on with this. So my hat off to you, my friend. We cover our senses. Look at all the perfume. Look at everything we put on ourselves, clothing, all kinds of stuff, to cover our natural being, because we're creating an illusion. I know people used to go to these places where the nudist colonies years ago, back in the 70s and 80s. And I said, wow, isn't this amazing? Didn't you have an amazing time there? They come back and said, you know, a few minutes is fine. But after a while, you get used to everybody being naked. They're not that attractive. So the illusion is then there. The same thing that Hugh Hefner said in an interview back in Playboy was developing. He always made it, he didn't make the models totally naked. He covered them up a little bit so that there was always that mystery, that intrigue. We live in a situation, warriors, where most people love the mystery. They want to find out what happens if I sin. Now, I'm not saying they're doing this consciously. I think some of this is unconscious, subconscious. But I would agree that people have this tendency to want to see the dark side of life a little bit, or at least experience it. And so they will break away from God in one form or another to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to roll the dice and gamble. I'm going to go ahead and have sex and gamble. I'm going to go ahead and eat tremendously. Whatever happens, happens. I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and do this or do drugs or whatever it might be. That's the way I think it starts. And then all of a sudden they get addicted and they can't stop it. And now Satan has gotten them. And they can't go back because their faith was not strong enough. And they tempted the God. And now they're in trouble. And this is what happens with retention. This is what happens with releasing. Once again, you are breaking away saying, I can do something better. I can release. It won't have any effect on me. That's what people tell themselves. You can release 4 or 5 times a day. In fact, the people in our society tell us, great, go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, you're going deeper and deeper in a hole. And all of a sudden, your behaviors, looking at what your pictures you're looking at, have to go deeper and deeper to get the same effect. Now, all of a sudden, now you're in a whole different mentality. And now you're losing your soul. And this is what happens when you continue to do these things over a period of time. You're losing your soul, and you're moving more and more away from God. And that's why it's important to continue to be in your Bible, to be in your Quran, whatever God you have, to continue meditating, to continue to have this positive type of force in your life. Because you're going to be tempted. This illusion's there. The illusion of beauty, the illusion of temptation. There's a mechanism in a person that Satan can grab. And if you're not on top of this all the time, and we talked about this in the last video, your flesh and the spirit, if you're not on top of your spirit and you're focusing on the flesh is very weak. The flesh can be taken advantage of any minute. And that's because the eyes, the senses, are all at the point where they can be attracted to something by looking and seeing. Now, the consequences of that, after you do it, is incredibly bad. Releasing, having sex, gambling, all these things are bad. But we don't experience that time like that. In fact, it's always funny to me, when I was going to college and all my friends, and I didn't drink, but my friends would go out drinking, getting bombed out, coming back, thrown up in the toilet, or not even remembering what they did, wrecking cars and things. And they'd come back the next day saying, oh, what a great time I had getting bombed out and drunk. We see it all the time. Whereas people getting drunk all the time, they think it's a great thing. Oh, yeah, I had a great night and come back at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? Now, I can say this now, but back in those old days, it wasn't so easy to say no to this kind of stuff. All right? I lost a lot of friends because I said no to that kind of stuff. But that's one of the reasons why I feel blessed now that I have some health compared to a lot of my friends who drank themselves into an early grave because they thought this was a high life. Just like retention's the same way. Releasing all the time they thought was the great thing to do. Well, a lot of them are having problems because they cannot actually have any kind of more sexual energy because it's a dysfunction for them right now. So this illusion, my friends, don't get caught in the illusion. A lot of you young warriors, don't get fooled just because something looks good. Always examine what you're doing and go back to your spirit and say, would your God do this? In my case, Jesus Christ, would Jesus do this? And tomorrow morning, would you want to read about this in a newspaper? And would you feel embarrassed if you read it? If you feel embarrassed doing what you think you're going to do, then don't do it. That's your answer right there. Because God does not want you to do this. And if you woke up the next morning and say, man, this newspaper saying that I'm releasing, you'd be totally embarrassed if someone read that. And that tells you right there you shouldn't be doing it. And that's the bottom line. All right, my friends. Anyway, thank you, my friend, MyStkal Moon. You guys, I always get that one messed up. I'm sorry about that, my friend. But thank you so much, MyStkal Moon, for your great comment, great question. We'll do another one tomorrow night. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening and have a great tomorrow. And remember 2 things, my friends. First of all, every day is a new day to a great warrior, and you guys are all great warriors. And the reason you're great warriors is because every day you remember it's important to not give up and to always